very high level, what would you say about what piece of advice or pieces do you, and you gave a lot of this in your talk to us about burnout, like what it is and how to start to recognize it?
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Burnout is where you lose joy and love and passion for something that you used to have so much love and passion for. And largely it comes from pouring, an excess amount of hours into, largely out of necessity, or it comes from the people in the environment that you're in that are breaking you down and not creating an environment where it is okay to say no. It is okay to set boundaries. It is okay to protect your peace, kind of as the kids say nowadays. How do you create an environment where we can work hard, but we can also play hard in the sense of like, I can take a break, I can step away, and people around me are going to trust that I'm still going to get the job done in the way that it needs to be done.
Hey everyone, it's Tony Will. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited for this episode of Women In, and I can't wait for you to meet my next guest. But before you meet her, let me tell you what you're listening to. Women In is a podcast that celebrates women from all walks of life and the people who uplift them. Each episode features incredible voices from my world, sharing stories that spark inspiration, challenge the status quo, and remind us that empowering women empowers everyone. This is a bold, curious, and uncensored space where disruption is welcome, forward thinking is encouraged, and change is the goal. I'm passionate about breaking down barriers, not just for us, but for the next generations. Whether our paths cross professionally or personally, these conversations matter. Let's dive in and celebrate the power of connection, growth, and the people who are shaping our world, and this woman is definitely one of them. Dr. Aubrette Kinne is an Associate Director of Sports Psychology and Student-Athlete Mental Health at the University of Iowa, where she provides comprehensive mental health care and mental performance services to Hawkeye student-athletes. In this role, she delivers evidence-based mental skills training and consults closely with Iowa athletic teams to optimize performance, well-being, and resilience. She is also the founder and owner of Preserve Counseling and Performance Psychology, where she serves elite high school and professional athletes. Dr. Kinne has nearly a decade of experience at the University of Iowa and previously served student athletes at the University of Oklahoma and Indiana University. In addition to her work in collegiate athletics, she provides sports psychology services to elite youth and professional athletes. She earned her PhD, which is badass, by the way, from the Indiana University. Not, I say the Indiana University. We'll roll with it. It's not the Ohio State. Sorry, Ohio State. And her MA in sports psychology from the University of Denver. A former student athlete at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, Dr. Kinne brings both academic expertise and lived athletic experience to her work with performers. Hi, Aubrette.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm great. Excited to be here.
How is it? I'm excited to have you here. How does it to hear all your hard work and accolades read out loud to you in the bio?
I don't know. It's you kind of forget all the things that you've done and all the work it's taken to get where you are because you got to get through one day at a time. And so to kind of hear it all in combination like that, at the risk of sounding conceited, I feel proud to hear it all back like that. And I know how much work it took to get there. And so, yeah, just very proud to hear that.
Yeah, it's funny. I wrote a blog this week about pride and ego and the difference.
Yeah.
And pride is it's positive, right? And ego is where we get a little tripped up. So pride is great. And you should be proud of yourself. Badass, and you're a doctor, PhD. And I keep saying this because I'm proud of all the PhD women that have come on this podcast. But the percentage overall of women who are PhDs, I'm sure, is low. And so I want to talk about that. What made you decide to further your education to the top level of PhD? What was that deciding factor for you?
Well, I've ever since I was really young, I've loved learning. Been a self-proclaimed nerd, and I've always loved school and seeing how much I can grow my mind and how much I can learn. And so it's always kind of graduate school always felt in the cards for me, whatever career I wanted to pursue. And then in high school, I always wanted to be a lawyer. My parents say I'm really good at arguing. So, and then in high school, my senior year, I took a psychology course, and it just completely blew my mind. And I was so intrigued and fascinated by learning how the mind works and how behavior works and why people might do what they do, the mechanisms behind that, and how to help them self-actualize and achieve the person they want to be, achieve their goals in life. And I was hooked almost instantly. And then I, as you read, I was a collegiate athlete. Went through my usual junior year existential crisis. What am I going to do once I'm done being an athlete? And I learned about the field of sports psychology. It was relatively new as far as the mainstream goes at that time. So I had just been connected with a mentor who taught sports psychology on my campus, and he really guided me on what the future of the career looks like and what it would take to do what I wanted to do, which was to give back to collegiate athletes and help that population in particular. Unfortunately, I had a best friend die by suicide who was on my high school team, and the pressures of athletics were one of the things that she cited as what led to her suicide. And so I knew that that was a group I wanted to give back to. I'd been a college athlete and known how difficult that was, and didn't have the resources that exist today. Thankfully, it has grown so much now. And so that's just what it was going to take. I needed some specialized training in sports psychology, but I also, more importantly, needed the clinical experience to help with the mental health side of what everybody goes through, but certainly athletes are not immune to that either. And so I wanted to continue learning, and I loved being in graduate school, but I also knew that was necessary to achieve my career goals. So I went forward with a master's and a PhD.
How many years were you in school for all of this?
Oh gosh, grad school was 7 years, so 11 if you add undergrad to that.
And that's just your college.
Yes.
Plus the whatever 15 4 or
Right.
You were in school a long time.
Exactly. Yep.
So let me ask you this. Did you have help financially for all of that? I think that's an important conversation because it is so expensive to get a college degree. And you kind of look at it like a business, or at least I would, like, what's the ROI? And I think, in my mind, the ROI is there. Like your skill set, your knowledge is increasing. So you're going to get a higher pay, hopefully. And so it takes a while to recoup the investment. But so I know there's a lot into that statement / question, but did you have help financially, or are you paying off student debt? And do you view it as an ROI?
Both. I was fortunate enough to earn a partial athletics and academic scholarship for my undergrad years. And then thankfully my parents were willing to help me out with the rest. And so I came out of undergrad without any debt, which was wonderful. And then for my master's degree, I chose to go to a private institution, largely because it was one of the only sports psychology graduate programs in the country at the time. There were a couple, but not very many. And I knew that was going to be critical to making me an elite candidate for a position in a university setting. I don't know that I was as conscious of it at the time, but looking back, just realizing, especially as a woman, how hard it can be to break into athletics. And so I knew I had to do everything possible to make myself a strong candidate, but also to be able to do the work most effectively. And so I went to the University of Denver, and that had, it was a very new program at the time, but it had some of the best professors, best experiences, best course layout. And so I knew that was just what I had to do. So I had to take out a lot of student loans to be able to afford that, which I am still paying on. And thankfully, I am eligible for public service loan forgiveness, which will actually come due here in a couple months. So I'm very much looking forward to that day. But then, for my doctoral program, that program was wonderful because they have graduate assistantships that offset your tuition. So I did teach at Indiana University. I taught sports psychology for undergrads. and helped create that course because it was new when I was a graduate student there as well. So that offset my tuition cost, but I had to get extra jobs to pay for my cost of living and things like I was working at David's Bridal for a long time while also getting a graduate degree. So just whatever I could do to earn money to help with my cost of living and be able to focus on school and get the education that I wanted.
Yeah, this is such a, I'm glad we're talking about this. By the way, anyone who listens to this podcast, we do not do any preparing ahead of time. I just find what's interesting about my guests and I ask questions. I do send questions that I might ask, and very rarely do I, which is hilarious for my poor guests. But we stumble upon these great topics like this. So, Aubrey, do you think that based on where you're at now, has all the education been worth it?
Without a doubt, absolutely. I feel that I learned so much from all of my professors that I was privileged to study under. I have had great supervisors along the way. Certainly, I'm on the academic side of things. It's been the practical learning. How do you actually do therapy? How do you do therapy with athletes? How do you do all of that well and ethically? That has been most critical, I think, to advancing me as a professional and to do the thing that I want to do most, which is help athletes and help other people go through the experience of living and being a student and an athlete and all the pressures of that. So I felt set up really well from a knowledge standpoint, from a skill set standpoint, also from a connection standpoint. I met so many people throughout my graduate experiences. I still get people reaching out, hey, I see that you're on the Denver alumni list. I'd love to get to talk to you or to get some advice from you, prospective students or current students or other people in the field that also had gone to Indiana and now work in sports psychology. And now we have a network of connection. So I think all of that, there's so many ways that I didn't even anticipate that it would be beneficial, that even 10 years post graduating, I'm still reaping the benefits of that. And it also inspired me to be a mentor and a supervisor for the next wave of sports psychology professionals, which has become such a passion area of mine that I also maybe didn't expect. When you're first out of graduate school and you're just trying to tread water and figure out how to have the quote unquote adult job, the full-time job. But once I settled into that, realizing that I wanted to create opportunity for other people to gain some of that great education and training that I was privileged to have along my way as well. And so we've set up a sports psychology training program at Iowa, and we actually just got notification today that we will be expanding. We've got funding to expand that training program even further. So I'm so proud of that work and that advocacy and that opportunity that we're going to create.
That's awesome. I want to ask another question around the title doctor, in the sense that I know women that have had quite the resume, and they've had to downplay some of their accomplishments in order to be interviewed for a job, because there's this assumption that we can't afford this individual because of what their accolades are or their credentials. And so I'm wondering if it was a strategic move on your part, that you decided to work for a university, because in that world, PhD is sought after. I don't know if I'm making the correct statement or assumption there, but it's respected and not feared as it could be in the business world. So was that something that was put into, or were you just like, no, this is where I wanted to be and how I ended up here?
Not particularly. I knew I wanted to work with the collegiate population. That was my main goal and priority, just because, as I said, I lived it. I knew how difficult it was. I'm from Indiana originally, so I moved very far away from home to go to North Carolina. I was one of the best in my state, and then I went to college and I was at the bottom, as is the experience for most freshmen, most first year. So that was a challenge, making new friends, working with new coaches. I had a coaching change in the middle of my collegiate experience, which was very stressful because it was no longer the coach that I was recruited by. And that's the logistics of it, the performing side of things, being a student and excelling in the classroom, which was a important part of my values. It was a lot. It was a lot to juggle. It was a lot to handle. There were days where it certainly felt really hard to do that. And I had a lot of support, but not a lot of professional support, because sports psychology wasn't really a thing. It wasn't a mainstream thing at the time. Now, the NCAA best practices state that all athletic departments, D1 athletic departments, have to have some sort of mental health provider for their athletes. So now it is very mainstream. Staffs have multiple. We have 5 on our staff at Iowa. We're fortunate to have a large staff, but it just didn't exist when I was an athlete. And so I wanted to be somebody who could provide that support through such a challenging time. And so there was not a doubt in my mind that was the age group that I wanted to work with and the population I wanted to work with. I do also feel that my expertise has been very valued in terms of having a PhD and having that advanced training. It does afford me a higher salary and put me in a different salary bracket, which is nice to reap some of that benefit from that. But it's the respect of my expertise, of my colleagues, my other healthcare providers within our athletics department that make me feel very, very proud and an important member of the healthcare team. And so I would say I can't speak to the academic side of the university, but at least in our space and in our department, I do feel very valued for my expertise as having that PhD.
Yeah, and you're young. Do you ever, how old, if you don't mind me asking, how old are you?
I'm about to turn 40.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. What's your skincare routine? I
I wish I had secrets. I don't have any. Lots of water.
That's awesome.
Lots of water, moisturizer. Yeah. I don't know. Good lighting.
It's all working for you. When is your 40th?
It's in September.
Okay, so do you have plans? Big plans?
This is going to be very, very nerdy. My friend and I turned 40 a couple days apart, and we are going to Disney World with our husbands without our kids.
Oh my gosh, I'm loving this. Oh,
I am a full-blown
Disney
adult. It has happened over the past few years, and we are going to go to the Food and Wine Festival at Epcot and just not have to be toting little kids around, and it's going to be great.
That's awesome. Are you a Virgo?
I am a Virgo, yep. And I'm very
married
Virgo.
to a Virgo. I am married to a Virgo, so I know. But hey, Virgos and I get along real well.
Good,
so
awesome.
I'm a Gemini. So anyways, yeah. And I'm not that into astrology, everyone. If you're listening, they're just like, oh, Tony, no, I just know enough to be dangerous.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to ask, what sport did you play in college?
I was a swimmer.
Swimmer, okay. And I assume you swam in high school then too, or in club?
Yes, both.
Club level, yeah. What was your specialty?
Good.
What do they call it in swim?
Yeah, event.
Specialty
or event.
Event, yes.
Yeah, great,
yes.
Great question. Mostly freestyle, mostly distance events. 500 and the mile were my kind of my bread and butter. Though I did do swim some of the the individual medley events in college for a couple of years as well.
So we're talking about pride at the very beginning. What is the one race that sticks out to you that you're the most proud of, or achievement in swimming?
Can I pick two?
Yeah. I like it. Do it.
One was my, I believe it was my junior year of high school. See, I can't even remember the year. I won state as an individual and on my relay team. So that was something I was very proud of and very excited for. And then in college, our team won our conference meet, ACCs, and we won at home. And it was our coach was retiring. It was his last year. We had, I was part of a championship relay, a record-breaking relay. So many of my teammates did great things. So it just was very kismet, all the things that came together at that meet. And it was just such a special moment that I keep in my mind forever.
I know some college, well, I know a lot of college athletes, but in particular, I know college swimmers or former college swimmers. And this particular person I'm thinking of does not want to ever be in the pool
Mm.
ever again. Do you feel that way?
It's like,
Yeah.
so, I'm sort of thinking about it lately, and one of my friends was or current friends, where we live in Iowa now, is a swimmer as well, and he goes to swim most mornings, and he's trying to get me to come with, and I'm like, oh, I probably should. It's very good for you. I hate running. That is not a land creature. So I'm starting to get the bug again, but I've been very happily retired for all these years since then.
It's just so much time in the
It
pool
is.
that it's like the last thing. I mean, as a swimmer
Yeah.
at that elite level. So,
Yep.
um, okay. Again, this wasn't your bio, but I have to ask. David's Bridal, and you because you mentioned it. What is the worst bridezilla story? There's got to be one that stands out.
Oh gosh. I don't know that there's one that stands out necessarily, but it's when they come in and they're like, okay, I want this. And you put them in that and they're like, nope, this. And they keep thinking they know everything that they want. And in fact, they go with the dress that we picked we're like, here, based on what you told me about your vibe of your wedding, this is the dress. And they're like, no, I don't want that. And we try on 20 other dresses. And then it ends up being the one we picked from the beginning. Like, I could have saved you 2 hours. So
That is so
I
funny.
think that's
How,
just
wait,
exhausting.
let me ask you this. Do you how did you know were you trained in how to pick that stuff out? Like did you get like bridal training or what sales training from
Yes,
Davis Bridal on that?
certainly they teach us about different designs and silhouettes and things like that. Honestly, though, I think for me, it was my experience in graduate school for psychology of being able to read people and to pick up on, reading between the lines. I think that's so much of the work that I do as a psychologist is because people don't always come in with a high level of self-awareness, especially with the deep things that are going on under the surface. And that's part of our job is to figure that out, to help them raise that self-awareness so then we can really work on those things that are under the surface. So I think really honestly it was all of that training of being able to read between the lines and get a sense for someone and pick up on these subtle nuances in how they're talking or what they're talking about that give us the actual information. And so I just applied that to listening to my brides talk at David's Bridal about what they wanted, especially if there were other voices. Sometimes it wasn't always the bridezilla. It was like the mom of the bridezilla or the mother-in-law of the maid of honor zilla
Yeah.
that were influencing the bride. And how do I help them find their own voice and their own assertiveness to pick the dress that they want? I think honestly a lot of that came from my grad school training.
What dress did you end up picking and did you get it from David's Bridal?
I did not. But I wasn't working there anymore when I got married.
Okay.
I picked a mermaid style with a huge flare at the bottom, sweetheart neck, and it was just, top to bottom floral all over it. I love it. I still put it on. My kids wear it sometimes just to I don't know. It's just cute having little pictures of them from babies to grown up putting my dress on.
Oh, how old are your kids?
11, 8, and 5.
Okay, so you're three. Yeah, I have three too. Three as well, but they're all young adults now. So, yeah,
Yeah.
because I'm just a touch older than you.
I'm
So
in the thick of it.
you are. It's fun though, because you can go to Disney and they're gonna remember, and they're not quite to the stage of
Yes.
rebelliousness or as you. But hey, you know a lot about psychology, so
I know
you.
it's coming. I just soak up every little minute that they still want to be around me.
Yep. Yeah, truly. Okay. I want to talk about, normally I ask this question at the beginning of the podcast, but I wanted to spend some time on it. So let's talk about how you and I came into each other's lives. So how did you and I meet?
Well, I was invited to speak at the Women in ECHL meeting, webinar, I'm not sure what you call it,
Yeah.
but speaking on burnout in the workplace, self-care, mental health in the workplace, especially as women in athletics, and was invited through someone at the Iowa Heartlanders, and then we were connected through that, and I got to come speak to your group, and it was so wonderful and invigorating for me, honestly, being a woman who works in athletics. I love to be able to do whatever I can to support other women. So it was just absolute joy to be able to speak to them.
Yeah, so we have people are like, what's the ECHL? So the ECHL is the league that Kalamazoo Wings play in, which is my day job as a general. Well, it's not really a day job; it's my career, but I have other endeavors that I'm doing as well. In men's professional hockey. And so I created, because we're going to talk about mentoring because you've mentioned this a couple of times. You've been mentored and you enjoy mentoring. And so I started this Women in Sports mentor-mentee program, resource group within our league 3 years ago. And so one of the things was, let's bring some experts in during these meetings that we have quarterly to teach us things, just so the women who are interested in learning more, who are nerdy like you and I, and who want to connect and grow. And so Aubrey came in and did a great talk, as she said, about burnout. And I'll tell you, burnout is a big topic that comes through on this podcast. I see it out in the podcasting world, especially specific to women. So
I think that we are a culture, just collectively, that values work to a fault, where we're so busy working that we forget to enjoy the work, and we forget to live and enjoy life outside of work. And so we spend other countries, European countries especially, approach work very differently than we do in the US. And I certainly understand that for many, many, many people in America, that comes out of necessity to pay bills, to afford health care, to be able to afford their car payments or the public transit, whatever it might be. So I certainly understand that the system. I could speak forever about how our system is just very broken and it doesn't support a positive work-life balance because everything is so expensive, and there is not much being done to help everyday people to be able to have that good work-life balance. So I recognize that a lot of my advice about how to prevent burnout is going to come from a privileged place of being able to set those boundaries and be able to take, some time away from work. But essentially that's what we need to do. Being able to say no to things and trust that the people we're saying no to are going to receive that well, or that it's going to be okay one way or another. Things are going to work out, that if I can't do that thing, and that person maybe thinks negatively of me, maybe I've learned something about that person that helps me understand how to interact with them differently, or that I don't want to interact with them. But being able to set some realistic boundaries for ourselves, especially aligned with our priorities and our values, is some of the most critical things that we need to be able to do, because it's our values and the things that are most important in our lives that give us that life, that give us that energy to do the things we don't want to do always, but need to do. And so whether we find that, create that, cultivate that in our personal lives, in our work lives, both, that's absolutely necessary, but we can't do all the things all the time. So how can we prioritize, and how can we know what to say no to, and then give ourselves permission to say no, be okay with saying no to those things.
So I want to explore something with you that I haven't talked publicly about yet, but well, I sound like I'm a giant cliffhanger here, but it's not as dramatic as I just set it up. Although bravo to me for making it sound that way. Okay, so one of the things I'm working on is I've just recently learned, for me, that I am using work as a coping mechanism or a defense mechanism. Do you see that a lot?
Certainly I can. Yeah. It can be a coping mechanism. You can see this a lot in people that experience particularly trauma as children. They're seeing some, especially emotional manipulative trauma, where they're feeling they're not good enough unless they do something else, or I have to achieve this in order to get love from people who should love me unconditionally. And so it very much becomes like, okay, well, I've just got to keep working more and more and more. And again, this is usually subconscious, which is part of that piece that I mentioned earlier, where that's part of my job as the therapist, to listen for these kind of things. But like, if I keep working, I will get the love, support, validation that I have been craving from others, especially because that was deprived from them, and or they don't give it to themselves. or there's something else going on in life that they aren't addressing, want to be addressing, or should be addressing, and don't want to, are in denial about it. So if I throw myself into work, I'm so busy, I'm not thinking about it. We can just repress that, bury it, not have to deal with it. So certainly, yeah, whether it's athletics or work or hobbies, not all hobbies are bad, but yeah, I think we have to ask ourselves, what is the purpose of this? Is it bringing me joy? Is it bringing me satisfaction? Am I feeling accomplished? Or am I actually avoiding something else? Or am I trying to fill a hole that maybe can't actually be filled by work?
It's so interesting. As I've come into this realization, because I quit drinking, so I'm coming up on 6 years this fall, and so that was my coping mechanism, along with working a lot. And now, when something difficult is going on, immediately it could be my 19-year-old calling me selfish, which I talked about in a blog I wrote too. I immediately was like, I know what'll help me feel better is opening my laptop, and I'm just so aware of it now. And now it's like, okay, what do I do with that information? So when people start to become aware, and you mentioned earlier about self-awareness, when people start to become aware of what they're doing and observing themselves opening their laptop, or in my situation, which would very much could lead to burnout, if that's what what would you say to someone like me? After awareness, how do I knock this shit off?
Well, first, I would say congratulations on your sobriety. Sobriety is incredibly challenging, and you should be very proud of 6 years. That's so great. It starts with healing, and that's often the hardest part for people. I always say, if we can really boil therapy down, oversimplify it, it's awareness, it's acceptance, it's action. So we have to raise awareness of what's going on, what the patterns are, how they're showing up in our lives. And then we have to accept them. It doesn't mean we have to like them. It doesn't mean we leave them as is. But we have to say, this is how I am today. And that's okay. I'm understanding why I got here, how I got here, what this is serving for me. Even maladaptive coping mechanisms work. And so a lot of people try to get through as best they can. And a lot of times, coping mechanisms work until they don't, and then we need to find new ones, and that often changes as we evolve, as we mature, as we hit new phases in our life. So I think one step is showing yourself grace, showing yourself kindness, acknowledging, like, yes, this is how I cope. I'm going to work on the action part, which is changing that and building new coping mechanisms. But we first have to have self-compassion, for ourselves and how we got to this place. Because if we're adding shame and judgment and guilt and ridicule on top of the issues, it just makes it that much more difficult to do that last step, which is to take action, to make the change. So we have to show ourselves that grace, that kindness, that compassion, and validate ourselves in order to then get to that last step. That's like, okay, how do I do it differently now? How do I address, what it feels like, what that triggers for me when my son calls me selfish or my child calls me selfish? Why does that bother me? Obviously, most people don't like being called selfish, but like, why? What about that? Let's bring some curiosity to the table. Let's ask ourselves, what emotion am I feeling? Sometimes emotions are surface layer emotions. Anger is usually a surface layer emotion. So it's like, what is below the anger? Is it hurt? Is it sadness? Is it shame? So let's dig down into those. Let's understand all of this, and let's heal from that. Sometimes it's not even the thing. It's that triggers a memory from the past or another relational pattern with someone else. So let's explore those. Let's heal those original wounds wherever they come from. And kind of simultaneously, I always tell my clients I'm working on 2 levels. We're working on day-to-day coping skills that help you make the changes you want, that help you get through each day. But we also have to work at this deeper layer and figure out what's going on all the way underneath. I use the analogy, a good visual of like a person standing in a dry field with matches, just kind of lighting matches. If you're just putting out each individual fire but not tackling the person that has the matchbox and is lighting each match, fires are just going to keep coming up. So we kind of have to do both at the same time. I want them to feel some day-to-day relief from their symptoms and their struggles, but we also have to figure out what's going on underneath in order to reach that long-term change. So it starts with that acceptance, it starts with that self-compassion, and then it says, what are alternatives we can do? Is it emotion processing? Do you need to cry because, you know, I'm calling you selfish makes you feel terrible, and you need to feel that emotion and lean into it and let it just exist? Is there a communication strategy? Do you need to work on assertiveness and talking? You know, conflict is not a bad thing. Conflict exists in all relationships, so we need to learn how to navigate that in a healthy way. So maybe it's communication strategies that we're working on. Maybe it is other coping mechanisms that we need to be building, like distress tolerance or deep breathing, other things along those lines. And then once we reach all the controllables, sometimes the things that are bothering us or upsetting, like we've done all we can and it's now an uncontrollable, that's where distraction can actually come in as a helpful tool. But if distraction is first, it's actually avoidance. So we want to make sure that we're addressing the issue and confronting it head on. And then, when we've reached something that's uncontrollable, okay, there's nothing I can do. I've done all I can. It's okay for me now to help me take my mind off of it. That was a really long answer.
Very helpful. No, it's okay. Hey, you're helping me and other people listening to this. So I want to pivot to the title of this podcast, which is Women in ... And the dots are there intentionally. Originally, I was creating this podcast. Well, first I was an anti-podcast because I felt like everyone was podcasting, and so if everyone's doing it, Aubrey, Tony doesn't do it. These are all these limiting beliefs that I bestow upon myself. And then one day I'm walking the dog, and I'm like, God, I want to tell these stories about women in sports. And then I was like, I want to broaden it because we're so much more than our occupations. And I wanted to have men on the podcast too, because there's so many important men that are in my life and important women in men's lives too. So I was like, let me kick out the sports, let me add the dots, and let my listeners talk about how they would fill the dot in if they are a woman. And then, so how would you fill in women in ... for you? And then who are the important women in your life that helped you become the Aubrey that sits before me today?
Great questions. I would say women in society. I would love to see more women in positions of power and influence. I think we are clawing our way there, but it is a hard and challenging road. So I would just love to see more women in leadership positions. I would love to see people trust that women can do these jobs. I'm so sick of the narrative that women are too emotional or not capable or not as strong-minded. I am so done with that and over that. So I would love to see just collectively in society more women. And I've seen it happen, and it's, you know, from local government to higher levels of government, to, you know, school boards, and just all kinds of places that I've seen women step up and just like really, you know, take on the challenge, because it is a challenge and it's not easy to weather the criticism and the doubt that comes. But I'm loving to see strong women step into positions of leadership and influence in society. So yeah, I would say society.
Love it.
Oh my gosh, the women in my life. I'm blessed. There's so many. My mom is the main one. She is such a role model. She has always demonstrated how to be strong and independent, but also loving, caring, respectful. And that is someone I try to emulate as a person, as a mom, as a professional. My sister is amazing. I have one sister, no brothers. I am so blessed to have her, especially as we both, you know, have moved into adulthood and become moms, and just building our relationship together in this new phase of our lives. So I'm so grateful to have her support constantly. I'm blessed to have a really close knit of friends in my, you know, where I live, and just to have such different women, but be able to come together, support each other, support each other's kids. it feels like I've always wanted it to be, just to have this group of unconditional support. Nobody's kid is better than the other. Nobody's kid's success threatens another kid's success. Like, we're just all rooting for each other. My current boss and director, she is a professional role model. She is so assertive and strong and powerful, but also gives us a lot of autonomy, which I appreciate so much. It's like, I don't need to micromanage you. I trust you. You're going to do this job well. And if you need to go to your kid's track meet, I trust you're going to get the work done, and you're going to be cheering the loudest at the track meet. She really, models and reinforces for us to have a good work-life balance. And then someone that maybe is a bit more from my past, but my PhD program, unfortunately, I experienced some gender discrimination from professors there, and that was really difficult, especially as a young emerging professional. And one of the other faculty members she had taught a class but was not one of my advisors, she stepped forward and advocated for me and gave me the strength to advocate for myself. And I don't know that I've talked to her since graduation, but she just always comes to mind when anyone asks me a question along these lines, and I'm so grateful for her support. I don't even know if she knows how much it meant to me at the time, but even now, 10 plus years later, it still means a lot.
Well, you can send her this podcast when it comes out and say, hey, I know you haven't heard from me, but I wanted you to hear this.
Yeah.
So one final question, well, two really, but are you a reader? Do you like to read books or listen?
I do like it. I have less time for it than I wish I did, but I do listen to podcasts. I do read books when I can sneak it into the nooks and crannies of my life.
So what's in your ears right now? So if you're listening to podcasts, and what are you listening to?
Oh gosh. Well, my daughter is my oldest daughter. I have 3 daughters. My oldest daughter is a soccer player, so I think my algorithm has been skewed towards soccer lately. But Welcome to the Party, which is a podcast with Abby Wambach, Julie Foudy, Billie Jean King. I am obsessed. All the lessons that they are teaching, even as women who have reached the highest heights of athletics career, just saying you need balance. We can't be all about sport. We can't be all about winning. And people of that influence really sending that message out, especially to parents and coaches of youth athletes. I think that's the next phase of my career, and I'm starting to dabble into that a little bit. I still very much, don't worry, Patty, my boss, I'm not going anywhere. I'm loving working in Iowa. But our youth needs so much help, especially our youth athletes. So the messages that Abby, Julie, and Billie Jean King on Welcome to the Party are just amazing. They have had on Emma Hayes, who's the U.S. Women's National Team coach, and she's done other podcasts and interviews lately. Again, highest heights of her career, coaches the highest level of women's soccer athletes in the U.S., and same messages, really supports coaching women and what that means. Not all athletes are the same. Women deserve a unique understanding of what their experience is like. And also, I don't care if you're a, 30-year-old professional athlete, you deserve to have fun. You deserve to enjoy this experience. You deserve to be proud of yourself. Yes, and we're going to work hard. So anything that Emma has done lately has been, I've just been absolutely soaking it in. And then a more fun one, Kylie Kelsey's podcast. I just absolutely love her. She has a blast to listen to, but she is just so unapologetically herself. And I think that is a great role model. She has, I believe, 4 daughters herself. So I just love her, every week going out there and doing her thing and being herself and supporting women and women's athletes. So yeah, I think those are the 3 podcasts that I'm into right now.
You should read the book, The Future of Feminism in Sports by Michaela McKenzie.
Okay.
So Michaela interviewed Billie Jean King, and anyways, it's a great book. And I had, first year of the ECHL Women in Sports, I had Michaela come on, we read her book, and she came and talked to the group. So great. I really recommend that with 3 daughters.
I'll put that in my list.
What you do for a living. Yeah, definitely. Aubrey, this has been such an honor to have you on the podcast, be part of the ECHL Women in Sports Resource Group, and talk about burnout and all these things, because we experience it a lot in hockey, in all sports for that matter, on the business side, not just the athlete side, when we're working so hard in small, very small front offices to put big events on each year. So I appreciate getting to know you and your expertise, and definitely cheering you on as you come into this next stage of your life. Welcome to the 40s, baby.
I'm so excited. I think it's going to be great. Thank you.
I tell you, it's been awesome being in my 40s, and I'll be 48 in 2 weeks, and I'm like creeping to 50, and I'm like, 40s were fucking awesome. So the 50s, I mean, watch out.
I know, and that's so much about mindset too. I love birthdays. I'm like, yes, another year, another year of potential and excitement coming up. So bring it on, 40s. I'm so ready.
Yeah. Well, thanks again. And everyone, this was her first podcast, and you killed it. So thanks for doing that and stepping out, maybe outside of your comfort zone, and sharing your knowledge and wisdom with my audience. Truly awesome job.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. It was so wonderful.
Awesome. All right, everyone. I forgot to, Aubrey, if they want to connect with you, where can they find you?
Yes, so you can find me on the Iowa website, hawkeyesports.com, and just search sports psychology, and you'll find me and my staff. But then I also through my private practice, persevere.cpp@gmail.com, so you can reach out to me either way.
Perfect. Well, good. I almost forgot that most important part. All right, everyone. I'm not hard to find. The hockey side of my life is at kwings.com. And then the big project I'm working on, which is Rebellious Success. It is my book coming out on August 11th. Pre-order is available now. It'll be in your mailbox on August 11th, and that can be found at tonywell.com. And until next time.